So, welcome back to the I Am Passionate podcast. I am your host, Jaren Smith, and I've got a very special new guest here for the first time. I'm gonna let him introduce himself.
Uh, where do I even begin, man? Where do I even begin? First of all, your brother in blood, flesh and blood as it is. Uh, Former athlete. I say you retired that a while ago, but former athlete, still an athlete lover though. Of course, we pay attention to plenty of sports. I'm really glad to be a part of this. I know I've been on previous recordings, but first time on the podcast. So
And something also just to mention, you were the first real guest because for my senior year project, you were the person that I'd figured. So you were my first real podcast guest. And now that, the podcast is officially named, it's your first time on that and plan this out.
it's an
No, of course, because, the
honor.
NFL, to that. And also really just before we dive into the NFL, I'm just going to yap about something. And that is really, I had my second experience doing tonight was color commentary, uh, which that was awesome. It was a little by it's one of those things where you're doing something new for the first time, and it's like the first time, like as you're doing it, it's a little awkward, but then you can tell getting comfortable. I got comfortable doing it, as it went on. I'm sure that my voice probably didn't sound as energetic as the main commentator.
A little bit of different role.
Yeah, which I think, I definitely did better as it went on. But really to go back to the NFL, we're gonna talk about just a couple of last week's games. Last week, I had probably my best week of picking games.
Hey,
We're not the Bucks and Panthers. The Panthers ended up losing, and the Eagles and
okay.
Ravens. The Ravens ended up losing. So we're gonna really just talk about the games that we both find really, really interesting, which we talked about off camera. And the first game being the Bears versus Lions. Obviously, the major headline of that being the final basically play of the game, and also Eberflus is gone. What were your
And it's like the sixth week in a row where it's just bad decision making by coaches, I feel like. Not, and also, and I think it's funny because it's not only the bad decision making that ultimately led to him getting fired, in my opinion. Obviously, I'm not an insider, but it's the fact that he was doubling down on the decisions he was making after he said no. And then, the next day he had full confidence that he was going to be the coach next week for the
Mhm.
upcoming week, and they'll be getting ready for the 49ers. And an hour later, that man was,
Yeah.
yeah,
And I think the Bears are probably the Bears and Bengals are the two teams where it's like, yes, they have bad records, but they are definitely play better than their record. The Bears were held back by coaching, and the Bengals, that defense is bad. But I feel like you can honestly say that for the Bears, they are 4-8 right now
yeah,
because throughout their season,
down
they
the hill.
had division rivals. The Packers even think that they were going to get into overtime, but then they did, and on the lines, like they had them by the
Yeah.
bunch of momentum, and so I honestly think that they should have have any timeouts. So basically, Caleb Williams led a 2-minute drill almost to perfection. That sack he took, which was the only real bad play, and also other things that I had heard about it was basically he got the play crazy late. And when he looked at the clock and saw there was 13 seconds, he was like, this play's not going to work. And he tried to put the Bears.
Yeah, he changed
Still had that. You're right. They did have it,
and they
but
didn't
still.
use it. And I think I put that on coaching though. The coaching, you have a rookie quarterback in there late game, you're trying to come back and win, and you have a rookie quarterback who audibles, changes the play at the line, and what he threw that it was a deep ball to. It's just a bad play call. I mean, it should have been a different play call. Forward with the Bears, I will say I think Ryan Poles has done a phenomenal job with
I
the
agree.
roster. I think it's the first time in my lifetime that the Bears have had like a formidable GM that is actually bringing in talent and filling in the roster. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with the hiring process. I know or not Kingsbury is really either, but I mean even the OC right now who's taken over. I mean the offense has looked better the last 2 weeks since the firing on board. I will say like coming into the season, I think a lot of people were hyped about the Bears. I wouldn't say I was
I
hyped, but I
was.
was optimistic. And I still am optimistic. I think that they have the talent. I think they have the pieces around them. I think it's just going to be being able to get a good play caller in and keeping that deep.
And the other thing is, other than say when they played the Cardinals,
Yeah.
have
Personally, because the offense really has not. been consistent. So that
Mm,
defense, when the offense, I think, the city of Chicago, the state of Illinois, we're ready for
mm.
that in the near future. But
Yeah, I agree. And the other thing is Lions, they're kind of the one team where everyone's like, if the Lions win the Super Bowl,
yeah,
just kind of a little concerned because it's like
yeah,
it's stand divisional
yeah,
match 15 and always some of your tougher games. But I just feel like teams with Super Bowl aspirations, I started noticing it in the Texans game. But here's the thing. In that Texans game, the Lions defense played well enough to get them back in the game and then win the game. Jared
yeah.
Goff played terrible. Didn't play amazing. That run game helped out a lot, which I mean that's kind of what they do. They play. They're probably the most over
I love it.
team.
I think right now, as much as I hate to say it, them and the Eagles, they're both ranked teams, but
Mhm.
they have really the only thing is protecting the ball.
Yeah,
Jahmyr Gibbs had that bad turnover. Jared Goff obviously had that game that you were just discussing about, probably his worst game as a Lion, maybe even in his NFL career. Um, but they're on a 10-game win streak right now.
yeah.
Credit to them beating.
Beat the
Obviously the Bears
Vikings.
game is close, but and then they I think I have the most confidence in the Lions right now is just as far as consistency goes. I think them and the Eagles are the only two teams that have been.
Yeah, I think that's my pick for the NFC Championship game.
Mhm.
We'll kind of see how things go. I think the only thing that can derail that are injuries. And we'll go on to the other game to talk about the Raiders versus Chiefs. And honestly, all we have to talk about is that crazy, which I don't know if you saw it. First off, somebody on the Raiders false start. Yeah, like
Yeah. It's
when
winning this year that you could say it was lucky for the Chiefs. I mean, they're getting by the skin of their teeth, and it's interesting because obviously it's concerning. Obviously, people are having their doubts, but at the same time, last year nobody thought the Chiefs were going to be contenders, and now we're over here talking about them potentially three-peating. So you can obviously never count out the Chiefs as long as they can stay healthy. And then I mean Hollywood with
they'll have to
Hollywood
make it far.
Hollywood Brown coming back. You have Pacheco finally getting healthy. Hopefully the running game can start. And then that it's just that their left tackle.
They don't have good.
They picked up a lineman off of free agents though. He was injured. He was a first round 20.
I
I'm not sure who it is. I don't know the kid's name, but he was injured. I think he tore his ACL, and I think it might have been a 2 years ago. I believe. I don't know his name.
So kind of while, because it looks like you're checking that out and saying, no, I had no idea about that. And kind of the Chiefs, they're my team to just win it all still. By that I mean they'll always be my team to win it all, even over the Ravens, until somebody beats them, whether
Yeah.
it's the Lions, the Eagles, or if it's the Ravens, or if it's the Steelers. I always think that the defending champs in any sport should always be the
Yeah. So I foobar that a little bit. His name is DJ Humphreys. He's a 30-year-old vet. He's an 8-year veteran. But has started all 98.
play.
Yeah, yeah, he's a left tackle. So I mean, we'll see if he's healthy, if he's good to go, if he can be plugged in and provide some relief to Patrick Mahomes. See, I mean, the Chiefs are always adding people new and picking people up off the.
Watch your Steelers versus Bengals. My biggest thing is the Steelers beat the Bengals at their own game. By that I mean the Bengals, they literally have to outscore everybody because their defense is just so bad. And I did not expect the Steelers to put up the game to be that explosive. Because,
Yeah,
bro, fantasy football, I'm like, yes, Russell Wilson will probably have a decent game, but I didn't expect him to throw for. I think they said
yeah.
I didn't.
I think I'm a huge Steelers fan. Obviously, been a Steelers fan since I was 7 years old. But you can also say I'm also the biggest Steelers hater at the same time, and I think that's just because for one, I'm realistic, and for two, I have really high expectations. I mean, Steelers for the past how many years we're used
Purgatory
to playoffs, and you know what it is? I was reading earlier today that game against the Bengals this past weekend. Most
points this
points, most
game.
offensive yards since 2018, most passing yards since 2018, most total yards since 2018 season. So, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm starting to get a little excited because I do still have my doubts. But if we can run the ball consistently and our defense can stay healthy, I think we have the opportunity just with how I think that,
And
yeah. I mean, the Chiefs, obviously, we just talked about them. I mean, you have the Ravens, which I'm sure we'll get to, but they're they're up and down, not being consistent. And then you have the Bills, who are probably might be the favorites right now. But I mean, the Steelers are right there, surprisingly. Like every year, Mike Tomlin gets it done somehow. So it'll be interesting to see. I won't be surprised if it's another if it's another first round exit. But I'm starting to get
The only way I would be not like surprised is if the Steelers will have to end with a better record than Kansas City or Buffalo, and it would be
and that's what scares me because that game is going to come down to inches. It's going to come down to second.
yeah. So my thing is that would be the only way I'd be surprised, but I think the Steelers will beat a team like the Chargers if they have to play the Chargers, or beat like the Broncos, or if, which even though that at this point it is extremely unlikely, if the Bengals somehow, by the graces of anyone listening, snuck in to win out, they do play the Broncos this month. They'd have to, and pretty much they'd have to win every game, and the Broncos would
Every
have.
game.
But yeah, no, the Bengals, their season's done. Joe Burrow is basically having an MVP season. I saw this thing the other day. Out of a quarterback's 12 games, for quarterbacks that have thrown at least 30 touchdowns and have less than 5 picks, you saw names like Aaron Rodgers on that list multiple times with 9 wins or more, like 9-3. Patrick Holmes was on that list, undefeated. Tom Brady was on that list in 2007. Joe Burrow's 4-8. Like, he said it when they played the Ravens the first time in October. Like, he's like, got to play a damn near perfect game. Which he built the crazy stat this year to me will always be Joe Burrow was thrown for almost 1,000 yards and 9 touchdowns against the Ravens. Did not beat them. The Steelers beat the Ravens by kicking field goals. That just says how crazy
Yeah,
it
yeah,
is
they
what it is.
historically bad, historically
Yeah.
just disappointing. But I mean, as a Steelers and Ravens fan, I don't know if we're too upset about it. But I mean, it's
I'm
sad
not.
to see. It's sad to see. It's sad to see. Obviously, my best friend from college, she's a diehard Bengals fan, and it's just tough to watch her post. Well, you know what? I personally have I will say I have a bias against the Bengals specifically, just because back with the triple Bs. They were,
Yeah.
I mean, he's the reason why Antonio Brown went Antonio Brown. So, no, yeah, the Bengals. I'm gonna be praying for Joe Burrow. I hope they get that man a line because
Crazy thing is, I don't. Their old line is not as bad as it was a few years ago.
yeah.
It was playing on all cylinders. They made it to the Super Bowl. Yes, the old line in that Super Bowl. I
Well,
don't think
if they still had Joe Mixon, they can't really run the ball consistently. So the best weapon to a bad defense is a great running game because
that's
the
plenty of
Ravens
ball.
game the Ravens go out and score, then the first offensive possession of the Bengals is a deep ball to Jamar Chase for a touchdown, and it's like, okay, well,
Mhm.
now you're putting the defense right back out there. So it's like,
Mhm.
okay, you have to have some type of balance. But the Bengals, I mean, they're just a high-powered throwing the ball offense, and I mean, can you blame them? They have the best receiving core in the league, I believe, and maybe the best consistently thrower of the football. I mean, Patrick Mahomes has kind of been in slumps the last 2 years with.
And we'll have a great segue into the next number one overall pick, Bryce Young in the Bucks versus Panthers. Bryce
Yeah,
Young has been playing lights out. And the thing is, I don't know if you saw it. There was a clip, like basically, it looked like Bryce Young threw a touchdown pass to Adam Thielen
yeah,
was a catch.
yeah. I thought it was a
Um,
catch too.
Now, even if they rule that a catch, does that mean they win that game?
Yeah,
He continues to play great just because my other than the Ravens, my biggest bias would be I'll always root for, like young black athletes. I'll root for all athletes, but just kind of seeing the media attention that, they get, I'll always root for. So Bryce Young, I'm rooting for you. I hope you do well. Only time I guess I wouldn't.
with Bryce Young, I'm incredibly happy for him. No, with NFL fans, NFL media, they're so quick to write people off or even hype people up, but write people off. I mean, you got Bryce Young first to say the worst situation. I could take it to the fact that that might be the worst franchise. If you
I
little
would say
stink they
that
had with
going
Cam,
to sorry for interrupting you. I would say going to the worst franchise would almost be going in.
yeah, worse, yeah, his situation was terrible, and then you expect him to carry the team and then when he doesn't it's oh he's the problem. No, everything above him and under him is the problem.
Mm,
And, he might be a part of it just because of I told you before, 46 passing attempts this past week for his career,
right.
46 passing attempts, not
I don't
a,
think he's thrown a single turnover since he's been
no,
back in.
well, I saw something and I don't know if it's since he's been back, but he has 6 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. Um, recently versus he had like I think one touch. He's playing better. I think the team is playing a little bit better. But we'll see. I mean, maybe cough cough. Another thing we'll talk about. Uh, getting rid of some of the cancer in I don't know. Who knows? Because now the guy is in Baltimore, in Maryland, Baltimore. So I don't know.
Yeah, and that's the perfect segue to the Eagles and Ravens game. Just to give my thoughts, I thought that first quarter the Ravens came out great. Lamar did miss 2 throws early. He missed 3 throws in the game. Um, but yeah, no, just after that first quarter, the Ravens offensively just could not do anything. The Eagles defense just into the fourth quarter. And I understand you have to hold somebody in check all 4 quarters.
Yeah,
But a lot of people, and like a lot of people, the biggest thing about that is they're talking about get rid of Justin Tucker, get rid of Justin Tucker. I don't think they should. Like I have said that I think he's washed, but I don't think he's washed like other people saying he's washed. I'm just recognizing that he's not as automatic as he used to be. Because I mean he's 35. I mean it's like not everybody can be the LeBron James and in his Justin Tucker's case, Adam Vinatieri. Uh I hope fingers crossed, I think that he'll, show us why he's been the kicker for so long. And it's like Patrick Mahomes has had the worst 2 statistical seasons of his career. Chiefs will never talk about getting rid of him. This is Justin Tucker's first really bad year. I think if he has another bad year for the next 2 years, then maybe you can argue trying to get a different kicker. But Eagles, they played great. They played great. Those RPOs that they have are deadly because the Eagles and Ravens, Tony Romo and Jim Nantz, I believe, said it best. They're both very evenly matched teams. I think the
yeah.
advantage is still slightly toward the Eagles.
I think if one only thing it'd be their receiving core, but I mean it's still closer than I think people may see on paper because I mean Mark Andrews back in form, Isaiah
Hmm.
Likely, which I feel like they underuse him now that Mark Andrews is back. He's
Hmm.
wild as well. And then I mean even the last second touchdown he scored. Hey, Bateman, of course he was out of the lineup this past week. He's turning it on this season a little bit. But if there's anybody I'm praying for in this entire world, in this entire country right now, it's Justin Tucker. Because I was talking about this earlier today, actually, at work. The Ravens, which a little bit of information on hindsight, I've been rooting for the Ravens for the Super Bowl probably the last 3 seasons. I would say I
Hmm.
think Ravens for their pick. I just think that they've had the potential to win the last 3 seasons. Of course, they've ran into hiccups, but I think it really is what Lamar was saying post game this past week. They're beating themselves a
Yeah.
lot. Most penalized team in the league. They're beating themselves a lot. And with Justin Tucker, I don't know,
On their Super Bowl team in 2012.
12th season, right? 12th season, been the best kicker every single season, not even close. He's been the best player on their team every single season, not even close.
And
The
this is the first year
one
he's not.
is what makes it even more difficult for me of a pill to swallow is this this is probably the season where he's making those kicks. They've probably only got maybe 1, 2 losses. He's
The other
making his
crazy thing, I don't know if you noticed, and all 5 of the Ravens losses, they've lost by 22 points. With all Justin Tucker's missed kicks, he missed out on 22 points.
and that's what I'm saying. And that's where I'm like, Justin Tucker has been carrying this team for 12 years. And the one year where the offense is the best offense in the league, obviously the defense is sus
Mm.
to win and bidding you to make the run to the Super Bowl. And the person who was the best player on the team for the last 12 years is the one struggling and letting them down and ultimately losing them the games. And it's just like, man, it hurts to see it. I wouldn't wish that upon anybody. And I'm rooting for him. I hope he does, make a comeback, like you said, and performs better even later into the season.
I got you. Do me a favor real quick. Wave your hand.
Yeah.
My end was glitched for a minute. I apologize because I say about the Ravens. Last thing to ask you before we transition. What do you think about the Deontay Johnson situation, man? Because
I'm so honestly Steelers fan, you know, obviously came from the Steelers. I wasn't really too aware of his off the field or locker room antics, I guess you could say. I wanted him to stay with the Steelers. I think that he's a great route runner. And I think that he would be a great duo next to Pickens still. I mean, we relied on him. I mean, how many years in a row, 100 yard season, 100 catches for him, really
mm,
reliable receiver, but I'm confused. I don't know what's going on. Like what I don't. I mean, the Panthers didn't work out, and then he gets traded to the Ravens, and I saw he's played 29. To be honest, I feel like I haven't seen him on the field, but then he refuses to get on the field this week. No explanation. It's kind of weird. I mean, obviously he's suspended now, but that whole situation is. I'm confused.
I don't think he wants to be there. I don't think I would be very surprised
Yeah,
going to be able to obtain him. If he had been more, obviously with a late season pickup, you don't have as much chemistry. So, I mean, on the few times I remember seeing him on the field, him and Lamar, obviously they just cannot connect. Um, in which I'm hoping that from because the Ravens play the Giants in 2 weeks, I'm hoping that they'll be able to kind of build some chemistry over the bye week, and then from the Gi actually not the Giants, from whoever they play after the Giants onward.
I need a report. I need a report. I need an interview. I need something because I don't even understand why he was. Yeah, I feel like more information. I feel like there's got to be something we're missing, something that's not being stated or told or is not known because I mean, in the history of like players not going out on the field. I mean, holding out for training camp and for the season is one thing, but you're suited and you're declining to walk onto the field. That only reminds me of Antonio Brown with the Bucks when he basically just stormed out the stadium, and then it
Mhm.
reminds me of it's one of those weird situations where you don't see it often, and you're not really sure why those things are going on. But it'll be interesting because I feel like Deontay Johnson. I mean, if he would have played, he could have been the deciding factor. He really could have been.
I agree 100%. I really, really do. Really just to talk about the next two briefly on our last week's games before transitioning to this week. 49ers versus Bills. Only thing I really have to say is that Christian McCaffrey, I don't think he'll be able to be a high volume player anymore. And I think last season kind of just it just hurt too much of a toll on his body. Too much of a
I
toll.
I was talking about this earlier today too with my coworker, and I was saying I think that we're seeing with him what we saw a little bit with Todd Gurley. Um, just high volume, going crazy, clearly best running back in the league, can do it all, run, catch, run routes like a receiver. And unfortunately it just caught up with them. Body doesn't hold up that well. I mean, obviously I would never wish that upon anybody. I hope that he makes a recovery, but the likelihood, I'm not sure if it's too high.
Yeah, I think with how the 49ers season is gone, I don't think we'll see him again this year. I'm hoping by week one next year he's able to go. Um, hoping he's recovered. But I mean that game was just not really worth talking too much about just because how it went. And we were playing zombies
We
during.
were, I mean, I think I even told you at the beginning, I said I marked that game over just because of the weather. I
Yeah,
mean, you
that
got
that
the
too. That
Bay
too.
49ers not used to playing in that kind of condition. Although they're football players and they do the Bills, that's what they're made for. I feel like every single year, the Bills is a stadium where you're like, they got two or three Blizzard games.
Yeah,
They got like so. I mean, the Bills, they're used to it. That's what they're made for. That's what Josh Allen loves to play and performs in.
true.
And that they just wear you out with that. So yeah, I thought that was a clean slate game. I thought it wasn't going to be competition after Caffrey got hurt.
True. And really, the final game of last week before transitioning to next week, the Browns versus Broncos. First off, I'm surprised of how high scoring the game even was. Secondly, Jameis Winston was Jameis Winston. He made some crazy good plays, but at the same time, he made some crazy bad ones. I think
Yeah,
the last pick that he threw, he quite literally threw it straight to the defense.
yeah. It's like I was saying, it's I don't know if we've ever seen a quarterback lead the league in passing touchdowns and passing interceptions in the same season.
And he
And
had like 5,000 yards when he did it.
Yeah, and that right there is just like the definition of Jameis Winston. Like he can go out there, he can throw it like crazy, he can throw all over the field, but those bad players are gonna come with it. Those bad players are gonna come with it, and that's what we saw, and ultimately that's what lost them the game. But you're right, to your point, high scoring game, 30-32 with a minute 40 left. It's just like you're not expecting it to be that well, one, not expecting it to be that good of a game, and then
Same.
also not expecting it to be that high scoring, like you said. So, but overall, I was happy. It was pleased. It was a great game to watch.
I agree. I agree. And also, did that game ruin my fantasy football playoff hopes? Probably. But
Yeah, don't ever take advice from me again for fantasy. I told you I retired.
well, this week was the one like I didn't really take advice from anybody. I kind of just did my own thing.
Was that you asked me to start
That was two
Njoku?
weeks ago with
Okay.
Njoku or Addison, and which ironically, I'm still crazy by the fact that I looked out for that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so really, just to talk about next week's games, I'll just say each matchup, and you just tell me who you got tomorrow's matchup. Because as the day of recording, it is 9:30 on December 4th, a Wednesday. Packers versus Lions, big game which can decide the NFC North. Who you got?
It's gonna be a close one, man. That's gonna be a close one. Um, I really I want to lean Packers. I do, but I'm gonna lock in and I'm gonna take the Lions again. I think the Lions can get it done. They just got to be in the game at the end. I think it might come down to who has the ball last this week with them. I'm not gonna lie.
I got you. Um, I'm gonna start with a hot take. Although I believe the Lions will probably get the win, I'm going to pick the Packers. I believe this will probably be Jordan Love's best game this season. Like I think he'll play really, really well. If the Packers lose, it won't be because of him. And I think that the Packers will just come out trying to get the win because they're a young team, but yeah, they still play with some of the best of them. So I'm going to
They
take the
they need this win
Packers.
more than the Lions do right now.
Yeah. Next game, the Browns versus your Steelers. Got Jameis Winston coming to town. Who you got?
Man, the fact that we already lost to them, we got to win this one.
I
We
feel the
gotta win.
same way from when the Browns got to play the Ravens. I mean, but
Yeah,
the difference between the Browns and Steelers versus Browns and Ravens was that game ended up snowy.
yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously, interdivision games with AFC North is always close, so I think it'll still be close. But the Steelers, we if we don't pull this one out, you might not see me next week. I don't know. I'm Steelers doubling down, man.
I'm doubling down on the Steelers also, but I think this one's going to be a bit more of a blowout. I think the Steelers are going to be a little bit more mad that when they lost to them a few weeks back. I think they're going to come out, on fire. Russell Wilson, that deep ball to George Pickens is going to come out on fire. Najee Harris is going to be running with a purpose. Jalen Warren, just everybody. It's going to be one of those. You're going to get punched in the mouth early. The Browns just are not going to respond. They're going to come a little close. You might have a little scare here and there, like maybe before half, but give me the Steelers pretty comfortably, pretty comfortably.
Won't be mad at it.
For Jets versus Miami, I'm taking Miami. I'm
I,
taking Miami.
you know how I feel about the Jets. You know how I feel about Aaron Rodgers. I have
You
hot takes
you
on both of
called
them.
it.
But I mean, even last year when they traded for Aaron Rodgers, I said it was going to be a shit show, excuse my language, but that's exactly what it is. It's exactly what it has been. Now the debate, all the talk in New York is whether Aaron Rodgers will be playing for the New York Jets next year. And apparently he has house renovations in in Manhattan, so he doesn't want to leave. But
Mm.
the Jets are, yeah, no,
The Jets are the Jets.
yeah,
I I really did not think that this season, like I'm not saying I thought they were gonna run the table, be number one. I never thought that. I at least thought they would compete for their division. So which I would say that my expectations weren't like unrealistic to say the least, but I thought they'd kind of where the Ravens are right now at like an 8-5 record. They have a chance to at least compete for their division, but more likely settle for the wild card. But yet no, they're
yeah,
just the thing is last week too, they had some return touchdown. The offense was on fire early, then after that just
fell
shit the bed.
flat. Yeah.
So give me
Yeah,
Miami, give me Tua to play well.
I don't know if they should have fired their head coach.
They should not have.
Last year they had a way better record than they do this year with Zach Wilson at quarterback, and you have pretty much the same exact lineup. I don't really even think they
Pretty much
lost
the main
him.
difference is Zach Wilson and Russ. They got a better offensive line.
Yeah, right. They got a better offensive line, and they got Hassan Reddick, who obviously sat out for a period of time. But
Yeah,
I mean,
sat for like the first 8 games, I believe.
yeah, I feel like they only added pieces. They didn't really lose any pieces. So the fact that they're flipped over on their heads right now, I mean, they're just classic New York, classic Jets. So yeah, give
Agreed.
me the Dolphins.
Next game we have the Jaguars versus the Titans. Um, the hit which Trevor Lawrence took was pretty bad, but like
IR out for the season. You
yeah,
see?
like thing is like this. Like so a lot of people are calling that like a dirty hit. Now, if you call it a dirty hit, I don't know, but it's like almost like what are you supposed to do as a defender? Because like people online, they're like, oh, he had plenty of time to react. But it's like you're not on the football field where guys run Tyreek Hill speed. Not saying Trevor Lawrence runs that fast,
Yeah.
but it's like people like Patrick Mahomes. Apparently, the Lions were saying this last week that about Caleb Williams is like hit him because they apparently there's film of Caleb Williams faking going out of bounds. So
Yeah.
it's like I don't think it was as dirty as they were making it out to be. And plus, he led with his shoulders. If it was helmet to helmet, then yeah, I'd say that's dirty.
Yeah.
I don't think it was as dirty as people are saying it is. I think
I
the fact that fans threw stuff at him, I think that was crazy. But
I think
give me the Titans.
so I was yeah, give me the Titans for sure. I think with the late hit, I didn't know this before today, but apparently his name Al
I don't even know how to pronounce it. I'll just call him Al.
Yeah, I don't want to, butcher his name, but he has apparently already been fined three separate times just this season.
I think he got
And
fined for
last
that
week,
Bears game.
yeah, and then last week he literally punched somebody in the helmet. Um, and got fined last week as well. Got fined last week. So you come into this week and you have that late hit by him. And I think I was watching the videos like Ryan Clark and a few. I think Jeff Saturday. They're on a Get Up in the mornings.
Yeah, the ESPN show.
Yeah, and they were arguing back and forth. Dominique Foxworth is what it was, and he was saying sometimes you have to do the wrong thing. You have to do the wrong thing even though it's the wrong thing to do. And he was basically talking about how it's not good the fighting that broke out. Obviously not good. I mean, you even had the Michigan and Ohio game, a lot of fighting this week and just football in general. And that's football. You have your comrades. You're gonna keep up with your comrades.
Ride or die for your teammates.
And yeah, and that is something that is good, but you can't sit here and say that hitting another man is also good at the same time. Like that's always going to be something that's bad, even if you're standing up for other people. And I think he had a perfect analogy too. He said, if you're homeless and you're starving and you have to steal food, obviously steal food, you want to survive. You have to take care of yourself, but don't sit here and say that stealing food is a good thing because it's not. Stealing isn't a good thing. So I think that's kind of where like you have to kind of take the two. It's not so black and white. But
Mhm.
with him being a reoccurring offender at this point, which I wasn't aware about until this morning, as I said, I mean he deserves the suspension. I think that it's just it's not meant to be in a sport like that. To be that it could be an accident. That some of those plays are accident. I don't think that he purposely did that to Trevor Lawrence. Um,
If anything, this one would have been the accident one. That
yeah,
Bears one, that was not an accident.
yeah. It's
That
just
the
a
other
it's
one you're
just an
telling me about,
unfortunate.
I didn't see it, so I cannot tell you.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate situation at that point, but I mean, the fact that D'Amico Ryan's pretty much after the game came out and defended him, and pretty much said, you
He's not the
know,
type of person to.
it was well, yeah, he said that, and he said it was overreaction. He said that the other team was overreacting and the bench overreacted, and I think that's what honestly ultimately got him suspended because if you have a coach that comes out there and doesn't and condemns him for it and says it's not a good thing, then okay, well maybe they can handle it internally. But when you have even the head coach saying defending him for those types of behaviors and that type of hit, I think as a league, you gotta step in and you gotta, do something about it.
I understand, and I agree. Moving forward, Falcons versus Vikings. Give me the Vikings. The Falcons have kind of been on a crash course lately, which I think that's only going to continue. I think it'll be a better showing from the Falcons, but I think the Vikings will they'll like Justin Jefferson, Justin Jefferson and company, they'll have a good game. I think the Vikings will win by like I think it'll be like a 30 to like 17 type of game.
Really? See, I'm taking the Falcons on this one, man. I'm taking the Falcons on this one. Kirk Cousins coming back in to Minnesota. Actually, I don't know where the game's being played,
It's
but
in Minnesota.
it's in Minnesota. Yeah, coming back to Minnesota. I think, I mean, just from knowing who Kirk Cousins is as a person, the passion that he plays with, I think that he's going to make sure that he has this game circled. You know, he has this
Oh
game
yeah,
circled.
he definitely does.
I think he's going to come out. I think he's going to perform a lot better than he did last week. And I think the Vikings, man, I mean, the Vikings are another team that you can easily say could be like the Chiefs because every game they're in, it's close. I think they have 7 games that are like within one score wins this year.
I mean, even
So
when they had Kirk Cousins that one year, most of their games were close. But I think the difference between the Vikings and the Chiefs is that like which I understand that it's so simple of a concept, but at the same time it's different. The Chiefs have that luck. The Vikings do not.
yeah,
But I know what you mean by the fact that they're playing in a bunch of close games.
they're playing in a bunch of close games, and I think that that gives the Falcons the edge to where if it is close, I think Kirk Cousins will be ready and prepared. So I'm taking the Falcons. I think it'll be close. I'm thinking like 24-17
I got you. I got you.
game.
Um, Moving on to the next game, the Panthers versus the Eagles. Well, I'm gonna take the Eagles. I've been, like me, you, and Kevin, we've been talking very positively of Bryce Young. Here's my thing, though. If Bryce Young has a great game against the Eagles defense, I'm not one to say that like it immediately catapults him in conversations, but I'm just saying that he will have gone from a good quarterback to approaching great quarterback. Like he's doing the things that you want a quarterback to do. And this is against, I think the Eagles statistically are a top five defense. I don't remember their
Yeah, I
quarters.
think they're number one
I
in the
think they're
league.
number one against the pass. They're like number
Yeah,
five
but
against the run. But in general, if he
yeah, I
if
think
he
so.
plays that well against that defense, he deserves his flowers.
Is it Vic Fangio?
Yeah,
Vic Fangio? Yeah, I mean, one of great defensive coordinator. I mean, he's been dialing it up for their defense the last few weeks. I won't say that it elevates him to greatness status or great status, but I will say that it definitely points up a lot more than just the last 2 weeks. I think that it'll give him a boost of confidence playing against a great defensive
that's more
coordinator.
so what I was trying to say. That
Yeah,
boost of
so.
confidence, not like I'm not saying he's going to jump from where his level now to like Lamar Jackson status, because that's
Right,
not
but
what I'm
I
trying to
think
say.
yeah, it'll be a great outlook if he does come out and play well. I hope he comes out and plays well. But yeah, give me the Eagles on this one easy. I
Yeah,
think they're just a better
I
team
think they're gonna
overall.
win by at least two scores. I don't think it'll be a
Yeah,
blowout. I'm not saying it'll be like 45-7. I think it'll
uh,
be like 31-14.
I'll give that.
Yeah. Next game, Raiders versus Buccaneers. Give me the Buccaneers. Even though the Raiders played good enough to arguably should have won last week, I think the Buccaneers, they're getting healthy at the right time. Mike Evans, I believe, played last week. They're getting some of the pieces back on defense. And I think they're going to try to make their playoff run because I don't know if you noticed, most of their losses have come to great teams.
Yeah,
So, like, and like they're playing them down to the wire.
close
So,
games.
yeah, they're the opposite of, say, the Chiefs or Vikings in this case. They're losing their close games. So, give me the Bucks. This is probably like my lock of the week in terms of most confident in this pick.
Really, not the Eagles and Panthers. I'd say Eagles are my lock, but yeah, same here though.
I mean, you would think the Panthers and Eagles, I should have that as a lock. It's just that I have more faith in the Panthers than I do the Raiders right now. Even though that the Eagles, I'm pretty sure the Buccaneers beat the Eagles early this year, but I more so just think it as I think I trust the Panthers a little bit more than I trust the Raiders right now.
Yeah, I don't trust the Raiders at all. I think they're also one of those just cursed franchises, unfortunately. But yeah, no, not taking the Raiders this week.
Yeah. Next game, Seattle versus the Cardinals in Arizona. This is a big game for the NFC West.
I think
Um,
this is game of the week. I think this is game of the week right here.
it it should be. It definitely should be.
I think it'll be another close one, but I have the Cardinals edging it out, I think. I think I have the Cardinals edging it out.
Me
I
too.
think I think the Seattle might have a chance to either tie it or win it at the end, and I see Geno maybe throwing a pick or something like that. So
Same vibe.
I, yeah, I'm taking the Cardinals, but I think it'll be close.
I agree with that 100%. I really, really do. Um, Going on to the next game, 49ers versus the Bears. Bears are at home. I'm actually going to pick the Bears mostly just because thing number one, Christian McCaffrey's not playing.
Neither is
And
Mason.
yeah, and Mason's hurt too. They're very beat up. If the Bears lose this game, I don't think it'll be because of their defense. Like, I think the defense will do its job. I think the offense will just kind of struggle to put up points.
This is the game this week that I'm not too entirely sure who to pick.
I feel you.
Um, 49ers are obviously just down
They're
bad this year.
bad year.
Yeah, just bad year. Truthfully, I don't see them recovering after this. They have a lot of moving pieces this coming off season. They got to pay some people, so it'll be interesting to see what they do this off season. Obviously, they got to get healthy in a lot of different areas as well. Hopefully, Brandon Ayuk makes a speedy recovery.
Hmm.
Um, but I think the Bears should win this one. Although I think that this might be one of those classic Bear letdown weeks again, unfortunately.
I get you.
Um, I think that the offense comes out flat for the Bears. I think that the 49ers offense will put some points up throughout the first half. And I just don't think that the Bears will be able to get it done. But this is one where I'm kind of rooting against myself a little bit, to be honest with you, because I want to see the Bears pull it out. I just don't know if I have that confidence in them, that faith in them. Especially, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how the team responds with the firing. I think that they would respond well
I think
if a
they're
lot
going
of
to
players
respond.
come out.
I think the defense might be the only thing that takes a slight hit, despite what I'm saying, just because Eberflus was the one calling the plays.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting, but give me the 49ers this week. I won't regret it if I'm wrong with this pick though.
Three more games. The Bills versus the Rams. The Rams are at home. I think this one is going to be more weird, but I don't think the Rams defense is good enough to stop Josh Allen and the Bills offense. I don't think they'll be able to do it for 4 quarters. I'm gonna pick the Bills, but I'm gonna say that this game will be one of those games that's like really, really good this week.
I agree. I think if anything, this is looking like a shootout. Um, I mean, Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp, Matt Stafford, man, I don't think you can ever really count them out of any game. Just because I mean they can put up points, and then you got Williams, of course, in the backfield. So
Hmm.
as long as they stay healthy and they can be productive, I think the Rams could, but I'm taking the Bills as well. I think Josh Allen, this just might be it might be his year.
I understand. Next game, we have Sunday Night Football, the Chargers versus the Chiefs at Arrowhead. I actually think the Chargers are going to get this one done. I'm going to pick the Chargers, handing the Chiefs their second L. I think the Chargers have the potential, they have the chance. I think they need to run the ball. I think they need to just have that run game going because, I mean, even when they played earlier this year, it's a 17-10 loss. It's not like they got
Yeah,
their butt kicked.
yeah.
Um, I think that if the weather's going to be cold, it's going to invite the Chargers to run the ball more, and that's what John Harbaugh, Greg Roman, they like to do. They have Gus Edwards. I know they have another J.K. Dobbins. I don't think is playing in this game. They have another guy who's going to be probably their more of a pass catching back, but if they get Gus Edwards involved, I think that they have the chance to pull off the upset. Because even though the Chargers team is good, they're an upset. Also, the Chargers, I'm pretty sure they're allowing the least amount of points this year still.
Mhm.
Even after when they played the Ravens the few weeks back, they're still allowing the least amount of points. So give
Two
me the
two
Chargers.
words, two words for this game. Jim Harbaugh. I think he I wish he never left the 49ers, to be honest. I don't think he deserved to lose his job back then, but he went on with his career and did things in college football, obviously. And but that he is a great coach, man. That he is a great coach. I think they came in this year on paper, probably one of the worst rosters. I mean, I don't no names pop out at you. I won't say one of the worst rosters. I'm not going to do them like that,
I
but
say that offensively, no names pop out at you besides for Justin Herbert.
I mean, you lose your two receivers. You lose Mike Williams and you lose Keenan Allen.
Hmm.
Um, you lose your running back as well. And
That's
it's
the
just
one thing where I wasn't upset losing Austin Eckler. I wasn't as upset with that.
the only reason why I won't say I was upset, but I mean, he's been a scoring machine the last few. I don't think he was last season,
Yeah,
but
last year he had a down year.
yeah, but I mean the season before that, I mean he was just
He was balling.
scoring machine. So I think that and he fit their scheme well. He could catch, he can run, he could do it all. So it's surprising to see the Chargers playing well, but also at the same time, like I said, Jim Harbaugh is not because he's just that kind of coach. He's a Mike Tomlin-esque coach where you're always going to be in the game. You
You
know,
get the
you're
most
always
out of
gonna
your
be in
players.
the game. Yeah. So um, I'm still taking the Chiefs. Still taking the Chiefs. I think that once again they'll find a way to edge it out. I
Like they
think
usually do.
specifically, yeah, and I think specifically just the Chiefs, specifically within their division, I think they just own it. I think
Yeah.
they just own their division. I
They're the
mean,
face of the AFC West, have been since Patrick Mahomes came on
right.
the scene.
It's just like, I mean, the Raiders beat them. I think it was last year on
Christmas, I believe.
huh?
I think it was Christmas or like the day before or
Yeah,
after.
which was crazy, and then I mean the Chargers and the Broncos they play them well. It's always good games. I think it's very much so like the AFC North where it's always good close games. But just give me the Chiefs. I can't root against Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I kind of have that same mentality. I'm mostly just picking the Chargers because also they're the bit more desperate because, other teams can, because if they lose, the Ravens and them, they'll switch. The Ravens will move up a seed, move down. So like, they're trying to stave off some teams. So I think that I think they have the chance to get this win to kind of keep building momentum to secure their playoff spot. Um,
Yeah,
the final game, which will probably be in years past, this would have been a great game, but this year, not so much. Bengals versus Cowboys. It's in Jerry World. Give me the Bengals.
man, I don't even know if I'm gonna watch this game honestly.
I was thinking the same thing.
But yeah, give me the Bengals, man. I mean the Cowboys are depleted.
Joe Burt.
Yeah, Joe Burrow, I think he'll just come out and tear it up. Hopefully, at least. I mean, I think this is by far a must win for them, of course. So I think they'll come out and get the job done this week against a depleted Cowboys team.
I agree. I agree. And yeah, I think this will probably be one of the lower viewed games, Monday Night Football games in a while. But
I'm surprised because in years past, they especially towards the end of the season, like right about now, they were flexing games. They were flexing certain games, and I'm a little surprised they haven't flexed any games yet this year.
they flexed. The only game that I remember that they flexed was the Commanders game, I believe. That was the
This
only
past week,
time wise.
this past week's.
No, the Commanders and Bears a few weeks
Oh,
back
okay,
because I
yeah,
was originally because actually, I don't think that got flexed. They tried to flex it. They tried to put that in on Sunday Night Football, but CBS was like, "No, everyone's gonna watch this game," which rightfully so. Um, but yeah, no, I think after this week we might see a couple of games being flexed. Like the Bears and I said the Bears and Steelers. The Ravens and Steelers is a game that if the Ravens kind of get their act together, I could see them putting them back on prime time. Like
mhm,
Ravens have to win to get the AFC North, or like a um Packers and Vikings. That's a game I could see being flexed.
yeah,
Just because the NFC North is so close.
mhm,
Even despite the Bears record, that's still the best division in football this year.
yeah. So
Um,
it'll be
but
interesting.
we reached pretty much the end. Is there any other things that you want to say about, this week's NFL action?
No, I don't think so. Right now, I mean, we got the Chargers sitting at 5 and the Texans at 4 in standings right now. The Ravens at 6 and the Broncos at 7. And the Broncos what's the Broncos record?
They're 8-5, I believe.
They're 8-5. Yeah, they're 8-5, third in their division right now. So that's a tight race. I think things are starting to heat up. It'll get a little more exciting. I think some within the next week or two, we'll start to see a little bit more where teams lie. I think this year is, I mean, obviously the last year too, but I think this is one of the years where you really just don't know who's going to win it.
I
I
agree.
think you just don't know who's going to win it. I think obviously you have your favorites with Lions and maybe the Eagles, but I mean, people are down on the Chiefs, so I mean, a lot of wide open possibilities this year.
Mm. I understand. I feel the same way. Well, we're going to end it here. I just want to say thank you so much for hopping on this podcast with me. I really, really appreciate it.
It's an honor, man. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
No problem, man. Love you, and we'll see you in the next episode. Peace out.